I was reading an intriguing article which defined resilience as ordinary magic. Resilience is not something you're born with, but rather something that you gain as a part of development through the support and compassion of ordinary people. This theme of resilience and of supporting others runs strongly throughout my collection. This is my concept board. So my collection was specifically created for high schoolers. I was inspired by this age group and the emotional hardships they face at this stage in their lives. My goal was to visually narrate important themes such as emotional awareness, adaptability, and of course, resilience. I drew a lot of artistic inspiration from pop artists such as Keith Haring and Andy Warhol, and I was also inspired by a lot of street art. So I took all of this inspiration and created 4 large-scale designs which would be displayed throughout a high school as murals or wall decals. And each of these designs have their own mini-series of complementary patterns. The end use of these would be apparel and school bags. A little bit about my design process. So here are some images of my sketchbook work. I start off by rendering everything by hand using a variety of different mediums like watercolor, markers, colored pencil, and even crayons. Then I scan everything into the computer and use different programs to make my designs appear more graphic. This is the first large-scale design of my collection. It says, "You deserve your dreams," which is a really simple but powerful statement. This is how I envisioned the piece to be displayed in a space. It would be really large and somewhere the students would frequently walk past. For this first mini-series of prints, I focused on creating different textures. I looked at a lot of images of different planets for inspiration, and there was one planet that had an almost cloud-like appearance, which I tried to emulate in this first piece. I also added a small phrase to create a graphic t-shirt which says, "Dream on." This print was also inspired by the texture of a planet, and the shirt says, "Pursue the unknown." In this print, I tried to emulate the texture of the moon, and the back says, "Unfazed," which is a fun little play on words. This is a galaxy print I created, and I used it to also create this graphic tee which says, "Safe space." I used this galaxy print again as a background texture in this print, which I then layered another texture as well as some planets on top of. So this final piece of the series combines elements of all of the previous prints into one cohesive pattern. This is the second main design of my collection. For this piece, I focused on the topic of emotional awareness, which is a pretty difficult topic, especially for this age group. Expressing genuine emotions requires vulnerability, and unfortunately, there's a lot of shame associated with that. So, in attempts to make the topic more approachable, I wanted to keep the rendering style more playful and humorous. It says, "It's okay not to be okay." And all of these fun little blobs are expressing a variety of different emotions. And here it is in a school setting. For this series of prints, I drew inspiration from lava lamps and the bright, organic shapes they create, as you can see in this first print. I painted a background texture for this print, which I then layered different shapes on top of. And I created a graphic t-shirt which says, "Feel your feels." This model is actually sporting a bag which features the next print. I used to doodle a lot in high school, and I still do now, so I wanted to emulate that doodle-like rendering style in this print. If you look closely in this print, it says, "You okay?" and then, "I'm okay." This print is very textural, again inspired by lava lamps and the forms they create. I also created little patches for this model's jacket. This is the last print of this mini-series. For this third main design of my collection, I was strongly influenced by street art, graffiti in particular. I enjoy how tricky it can sometimes be to distinctly make out the words in some graffiti art, but then once you see it, you can't unsee it. So if you were able to read this, good on ya, but if not, no shame and no worries, I'm going to point it out to you. So it says, life can get messy, just roll with it. And here it is in a school setting. For this series of prints, the Keith Haring influence is very apparent. I find the way that he uses simple shapes to convey complex messages to be exceptionally impressive, and I wanted to emulate that style. This piece says, "You good?" and "Oh snap." There are sneakers in this print that all have different words on the soles. They say gnarly, rad, and sick. This is another print of the series. I wanted to put a fun twist on a standard stripe pattern, so I created a dripping effect for this print. This is the last piece of this mini-series. For this fourth and final main design, I went with a music theme. It says, "Tomorrow needs you," which is again another really simple but powerful statement. Here it is in a school setting. I tried to illustrate sound waves for this print, and if you look closely, it says "Rock On," which is a fun little surprise. This is the second piece of this mini-series, and it says, "Stay tuned." This is the final piece of my collection. There are stacks of speakers and amps, and it says, "Speak up." That's all. Thank you for listening.